Hi guys, good morning, welcome. Hopefully everybody is awake and happy and enjoying their isolation. So this morning we are doing a 45-minute practice. The practice is pretty much the same as what we did on Wednesday night, because this is Friday, in case anybody needed a reminder, this is Friday. So yeah, this morning's practice is really similar to Wednesday nights. Also similar to last night's as well, but last night's was the longer version of it. It was a 60-minute class on last night. So I might change a few things, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty similar. I have kind of worked on a schedule for next week, and I've adjusted a few things. I did realize in doing these 3 classes, I've put 3 level 1 to 2s in a row. So, and then I've got 2 level 2s at the end of the week, tonight and then tomorrow morning. So I've changed a few things around so that it's kind of mixed up a little bit more. I have taken, I've added in an extra level 3. And I've added in, I think it's on Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to do like a 20-minute class at like noon or something. So yeah, there's going to be some changes for next week. Slightly different schedule. Hopefully it's an improvement. And I think that's it. I think we'll just go ahead and get started. So 45 minutes this morning. If you practice the last 2 classes, then you'll know what I'm about to say. You might want to have a block and a strap near you. You might not need it. I don't know. But the block is good because we do go into a squat at 2 points actually. So if you struggle getting lower in your squat, then a block is nice to have underneath you just to support your hips as you go down. But you don't need it. You can just stop a little bit higher in your squat, which I give you the option to do that. And then for the strap is for we do a one-legged balance at 1 point, and you can use it as a prop to help you straighten your leg out. But again, you don't need it. There is an option not to use it, even if you're not going to the full variation of the posture. And I think that should be it. So just take your time. I know it's the morning. Morning practices are a little bit different than later in the evening practices because your body's a little bit colder. It hasn't had as much time to kind of like move around and warm up a little bit. So this you might feel a little bit more stiff in the morning. So just take your time. Use the modifications. I'm probably going to do all modifications this morning in terms of vinyasas. I typically in morning practices won't do full vinyasas unless I'm feeling like really good that morning. So yeah, you can modify your vinyasas, modify whatever postures you need to, and just take your time and warm the body up. And then maybe later on tonight, you'll feel like really good and really open, and you'll come back for level 2. Okay, guys. So grab your props if you need them. Just have those around you. I'm hoping... Yeah, I don't know if I'd set the camera up too far away this morning, but I think that I'm okay. I think that my wire should be an okay distance away. All right, folks. So please join me in child's pose. Knees to the mat, hips back towards the heels, and the upper body drops forwards, bringing the forehead down towards the mat in front of you. So again, as I said, morning practice is sometimes a little bit different than a practice later in the day. So your child's pose might feel a little bit different as well. You might need to take your knees a different width rather than what you usually do. So maybe your knees are usually close together. They might want to come wider apart or vice versa. Same with the arms. They might go into a position regularly, but maybe here they feel a little bit better in a different position. You know, stretched out in front. Maybe the elbows are bent. Maybe the arms are back by your sides. Wherever you are, just take 5 breaths. Not a huge amount of time here, just 5 breaths through the nose. Letting each inhale be a little bit longer. And each exhale creates a bit more power. Use the contraction of your belly and a slight closing at the back of your throat to control the breath out. And then when you're ready, stay there if you need a little bit more time. Just join in when you are ready. When you are settled, bring yourself up into tabletop position. Inhaling, bringing the hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Take a second to adjust if you need to. Fingers are spreading, knuckles are pressing down. Take a deep breath. Cow tilt. Inhale, drop your belly, lift your chest, gaze comes up. Cat's tilt. Exhale, round the spine. Engage the belly. And again, back to cow. Inhale. The belly is dropping, using the engagement of the back of your body to open the front. And the exhale, your back is lifting, using the engagement of your front body to open the back. 3 more. Long inhales. Let the shoulders roll back. And deep exhales. Let the shoulder blades spread. Last 2, your sit bones lift up a little bit behind you. And the exhale tucks your pelvis under. Last one here. And then back to neutral on the inhale. So usually at this point we would head straight back to down dog, but as I said, it's the morning, so let's do a little bit more for your wrists here, letting them warm up a little bit. So keep spreading the fingers, keep grounding into your knuckles, and just shift your shoulders forwards a little bit over your fingers. Your arms are still straight, and you're looking for this opening through the back of your forearm and then the back of your wrist. And then just shift back again, letting that release a bit. 2 more just like that, slowly shifting forwards and then back. Making sure the knuckles are actively pressing into the mat. Once more, forwards, and then back. And then go ahead and have a seat back on your heels. And you're gonna take your hands and flip them upside down. So the palms are turned up and the fingers are facing back towards your knees. You want them not too far out in front of you. You're sitting back here so that you're not putting weight into your hands. This isn't necessarily a safe position unless you know that your hands and your wrists are prepared for that, which in a level 1 to 2 practice, they're not prepared to hold weight in this position. So, fingers are facing back towards you. Again, arms are straight. Lean back a little bit, getting a little stretch through the front of your wrist this time, through the front of your forearms. And then forwards just a little bit to release that. Not putting weight in your hands again, just a little bit to release the stretch. And then again, coming back. And forwards. And you're just going to do 1 more just like that. Coming back a little bit. And then forwards, releasing that. So you can release your hands, shake the wrists out if you need a little bit of release there. And then you're gonna come back into tabletop position. So hands, once again, underneath your shoulders, knees under the hips, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Lift the knees, lift the hips, reach the chest back. Let the knees stay bent. Take a couple breaths here, bend one knee, pressing back into the opposite heel. And then shift over to the other side, bending the opposite knee, pushing into the other heel. And shift again. And again, just opening up the backs of the legs a little bit. Do 1 more like that, just on each side. A real slow press and shift. Other side, last one. And then come back to the center. Both knees might be bent a little bit. They might start to straighten out if it feels good. It might not be there. Take your time again. Now bend your knees a little bit if they're not already. Look forwards and take small steps, walking your feet to the top of the mat between the hands. Feet are separated a couple inches apart, knees are bent a little bit, and the upper body relaxes. Everything hangs. If it feels good, you can interlace the arms, grabbing the opposite elbows. Otherwise, the arms can stay hanging. And then a little bit of movement here again. So your head might shake a bit, no. Maybe a little bit, yes. The upper body might sway a little bit side to side. These are all options, by the way. Just remember, there's options for a reason. Some options will feel really good for some bodies, and other options won't feel that great. So you're just choosing whichever ones work best. Go ahead, come back to stillness. Release the arms if they're bound. Keep the knees bent a little bit as you roll up one vertebrae at a time. Letting the hips curl underneath the body as you come up. Your head is eventually the very last thing to lift. Now once you're up, bring the feet towards one another. Big toes might touch, they might not. Arms reach down by your sides. Take a second, grounding into your feet. So your toes are gripping the mat. The balls of your feet are pressing down, as well as the outer edges of your heels. So you'll feel maybe a little rotation in your feet as you do those two seemingly counteractive presses into the bottoms of your feet. Take one more breath. Then inhale, arms reach up, look up. Keeping that same grounding in your feet. Exhale, arms coming down. Same again. Inhale, reach. Lengthening from that grounding in your feet up through the fingers. Exhale, arms down by your sides. Once more. Inhale. This time fold. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Hands coming towards the mat. Your knees again, maybe bend. Inhale, flat back. Lift your chest. Pressing into the shins to help with that length. If you're really open already, hands can stay on the mat. And then release. Exhale, fold. Again, inhale, lifting the chest. Use the engagement of your back muscles to pull your chest forwards and to flatten the middle and lower back down. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale, flat back, back to plank. Exhale, plant the palms, walk the feet to the back of your mat. Knees set down, modified plank. From here, coming into your first chaturanga, take your time. Keep your belly really strong. Your hips here don't want to tip up to the ceiling or collapse to the mat. Your hips are tucked under just a little bit. Belly stays lifted. Chaturanga. Exhale, start to bend the elbows. Now, as your elbows bend, don't worry about how low you get. You might only bend a couple inches. You might make it to 90 degrees in the elbows. Release all the way down onto the belly. Now from here, tops of the feet are pushing into the mat. Legs are really strong. Cobra pose. Squeeze the shoulder blades together. Inhale, lift the chest halfway up. Peeling the chest up with the engagement of your back rather than the press of the arms. Go ahead, release. Drop back down. If that felt good and you want a little bit more, hands slide back just another inch. You still want the palms grounded, but maybe just an inch further back. Same thing. Push through the tops of the feet. Use the engagement of your upper back. Inhale, lift. Reach the elbows back towards your heels. And release. You've got one more. When you're ready, strong legs. Keep the legs a strong base behind you. Inhale, lift the chest. Maybe this time the palms float while the feet stay down behind you. And then release. Tuck your toes under. Either on the knees or your toes, come into plank. Inhale, push up. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Take maybe 2 or 3 more breaths here. You would like length in your back here. So if straightening the legs causes your spine to round up towards the ceiling, just bend the knees a little bit. That'll give you a bit more space. Take one more. Then inhale, look forwards. Step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway flat back. And fold. Exhale. Coming to standing with a flat back this time. Inhale, lift your chest. Continuing all the way up, lift the arms, lift your gaze. Exhale, arms by your sides. Surya Namaskara A, Sun Salutation A. Remember to modify where you need to. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold, hinging at the hips, hands towards the mat. Inhale, flat back, lift. Back to plank. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet back. First option, knees are down. Second option, you can keep the knees lifted. Chaturanga. Again, don't let the hips change their shape. Keep them supported. Exhale, bend the elbows. Reaching the chest forwards a little bit as you lower. Inhale, first option is cobra. Hips are down, chest is halfway up. Second option is upward facing dog. If you're gonna take up dog at any point, tops of the feet push down, knees and thighs are floating with the engagement of your legs. That once again supports your lower back. On an exhale, downward facing dog. First option, push down through the knees. This is whether you're coming from from up dog or cobra. Second option, push down through the tops of the feet and roll over your toes. Spread the fingers. Press down through the knuckles. Take one more. And coming to the top of the mat, inhale, look forwards, step or jump the feet between the hands, lift the chest halfway, exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift your chest. Exhale, plant the palms, left leg, acquaint yourself with your left and right real quick. Your left leg steps back into a lunge. So your right heel is now directly underneath the knee. Make sure that heel is grounded. If it's not either of those things, move the foot forwards a little bit so you have a vertical shin. Twist. Left hand stays down, right arm turns up to the ceiling. We're just gonna be here for maybe 3 breaths. Letting that back heel kick away from you as your top shoulder rolls back, opening your chest. Just one more. Then exhale, right hand to the mat, preparing runner's lunge. Now the hands are down on the mat. Some of you might have blocks. If you've got blocks, you might want them underneath your hands, or maybe just one block underneath both hands. But you don't need them. Don't worry if you don't have them. Front knee starts to move back the way. So you're working to straighten out that front leg. It might not get all the way straight. Don't be too concerned with it if that doesn't happen. We're just trying to get some length through the back of your leg. Couple deep breaths. If the front leg gets all the way straight and you're like, well, I don't have any further to go here, think about your back. Notice if your back has done this huge rounding now. Lengthen the spine, reaching the chest forwards again. Take one more. And then release. Bend your front knee, downward facing dog. Step your right foot back. One more breath here. Then 3-legged dog. Right leg, again, remind yourself which is left, which is right. Right leg lifts up. That's the leg that was just forwards. That's lifting up behind you now. Take a breath, reach back through both hips, through both heels, then coming into crescent lunge. Right foot, floating foot, steps forwards between your hands. Both arms eventually up to the ceiling. Now push down through the front foot and kick through the back heel to lift the chest and reach the arms up. Just 2 breaths. Last one. Coming into a fold. On your next exhale, bring the hands to the mat. Left foot steps up to meet the right. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Exhale, plant the palms, lunge your right leg back. So right foot steps to the back of the mat. Once that right foot is back, again, make sure front heel directly underneath the knee. Lengthen your stance if you need to. Right hand is grounded. And the left arm reaches up to the ceiling. 2 or 3 breaths. Again, lengthen from the back heel to your front knee. So the front knee isn't really gonna go anywhere. You want it to stay on top of the ankle, but the back heel is pulling out away from it. Just one more, let the chest open, roll the shoulders back. Downward facing, just kidding, not downward facing dog. Left hand to the mat, runner's lunge. Your left knee starts to drive back, working towards a straight front leg. You may or may not get there. Hamstrings for myself are usually quite resistant in the morning. Some of you might be feeling the same things. Couple more breaths here. Working here to create distance from your left heel through the back of the leg to your left hip. So as the heel grounds, the hip pulls back. Take one more. Then go ahead, release. Bend your front knee, downward facing dog. Plant the palms, left foot steps back. Coming into 3-legged dog. Left leg lifts up. Still pressing through the arms. Reaching back through the chest. Take one more. crescent lunge. When you're ready, left foot between the hands. Once that foot is forwards, take a second, make sure the legs are grounded, lift the chest, and then pull all the way up, reaching the arms up overhead. Palms overhead are facing in towards one another, helping to keep your shoulders rolling back, your chest open. One more here. Into your fold. Exhale, hands down, right foot steps up to meet the left. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms, step or jump the feet to the back of your mat. First option, knees down. Second option, knees lifted. Chaturanga. Exhale, bend the elbows. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Push through the tops of the feet. Downward facing dog. Exhale, lifting the belly to pull your hips back. Back to crescent lunge. Inhale, your right foot steps between the hands, both arms lifting overhead. Take your time getting there. Once you're up, go ahead, bring your hands onto your hips. Transitioning into warrior two. So your front knee wants to stay out over your pinky toe. Don't let your front knee collapse in over your big toe. Keep it out a little bit. Let your back heel spin down. Your hips start to turn open. Again, as the hips turn open, you'll try to bring your front knee with you. Keep that driving out. So you're now finding this opening through your front hip, your front inner thigh. From there, arms reaching forwards and back. Your gaze might come forwards over your front fingers. Take one more breath, lengthening through the sides of the body. Then extended side angle. Bring your right forearm down onto your right thigh. Your left arm reaches overhead towards the front wall or whatever's out in front of you. Front knee still driving out. Front hip is still open. You don't want this hip to close off. You want it to be pulling apart. Just two more here. Reaching through that top arm and dropping down through this top shoulder. Good. Last one. Back to warrior two. Inhale, lift up through the left arm. Front leg goes straight. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Both legs really strong, driving through the heels. Inhale, reach forwards through the right fingers. Right fingers towards the front of your mat, right hip towards the back of your mat. Once you can't get any further, right hand comes down onto your leg somewhere, and the left arm goes straight up towards the ceiling. So you're driving out of your front heel and sending this hip back, again opening your front hip. Or your front inner thigh here, excuse me. You might feel something maybe in the left side of the body, maybe in your back a little bit as well. A little stretch. Take one more. Then back to warrior two. Bend your front knee, reach up through the top arm. Downward facing dog. Exhale, hands to the mat, right foot steps back. My mind needs a little warm up in the morning as well. Lefts and rights sometimes don't work out the way that I would like them to. Coming into the other side. Inhale, your left foot steps forwards between the hands. Both arms lifting up overhead. Crescent lunge. Take a second, make sure your glute is switched on. This glute is going to help to open this hip when we move into warrior two in a moment. Bring your hands onto your hips if they're not already there. Keep pressing into the outer edge of your front foot. Back heel spins down. Hips start to turn open. Again, using the power of this front glute to help your front hip as it pulls apart. Paying attention to your hips here as well. With your hands on your hips, you'll probably be able to feel if your hips are shifting towards the back of your mat, which would mean that your front hip has dropped and your back hip has lifted up. Bring them back underneath your shoulders so they're even underneath your shoulders. That will, in turn, lengthen both sides of your body evenly. Arms reaching forwards and back when you're ready. Warrior two. Keep pressing into the outer edge of your back foot as well. You don't want that back hip or that back leg to collapse in. Keep the power in it. Keep supporting your hips and your lower back. Last one. Then into extended side angle. Exhale, left forearm down onto your left thigh. Nothing else has changed. You're just moving the upper body a little bit. Right arm reaching forwards overhead. So your bicep is next to your ear somewhere. Once you have this length, again, making sure the legs are still in that same position, hips are still open, then you can think about a little bit of rotation in the upper body. So these top ribs, these right ribs, are gonna roll back a little bit, and your left ribs underneath you maybe roll forwards, letting the chest open a little further to the right side of your mat. Last one. Back to the top. Inhale, lift up. Warrior two. Front leg goes straight. Legs stay strong. Hips shift back towards the back of your mat. Inhale, reach forwards through the left fingers. Keep going as far as you can. You want as much distance as possible between your left hip and your left shoulder. Once you can't get any further, bring the hand down, left hand down, right arm going up. Maybe just 2 or 3 breaths here. Both shoulders again are rolled back. So not only your top shoulder rolling back, but the bottom shoulder as well. You're also not collapsing into that bottom shoulder. You're lifting up out of it. When you've had enough, warrior two. Bend your front knee, reach up through the right arm. Downward facing dog. Exhale, hands to the mat. Left foot steps back. First option, child's pose. Knees to the mat, release the body back. Second option is a vinyasa and then child's pose. If you want the vinyasa first, inhale to plank, modify where needed. Exhale to chaturanga. Inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Exhale. Everybody to child's pose if you're not there already. So this might be a slightly different shape of child's pose than what you had right at the start. Just take another 3 breaths, feeling the expansion on the inhales and the contraction on the exhales. And when you're ready, find yourself in downward facing dog. Coming to the top of your mat, look forwards. Inhale, step or jump the feet between the hands. Lift the chest halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift your chest. Exhale, hands to the hips, strong legs. Inhale all the way up to standing, lifting your chest. Now from here, if you have a strap and you think you might like to have it near you, go ahead, grab your strap, and you can just pop it over your shoulder. And just so that it is within reach when you need it, because we are coming into a few standing balances here. If you know as well that your balance is maybe not the easiest thing for you on one leg, then you can readjust your position to maybe be standing closer to a wall, or maybe to have a chair next to you or something. Those things might help. Now, from here, separate your feet a couple inches apart, maybe about shoulder width apart. Hips width apart. Then shift your weight into your right leg. So that right foot is going to hold your weight first. Slowly start to bring your left knee up towards you. Now, some of you are going to stop right here with your left toes on the mat. This is perfect. This is fine. You're shifting the majority of your weight into your right leg and practicing holding that weight with the kickstand of your left toes. Next option, the toes float, maybe just a couple inches. Final option, bringing the knee all the way up in line with your hip. Just take 2 breaths. Let the shoulders roll back. Your chest is lifting up. Now from here, hands underneath your left thigh. If you still have your toes on the mat, just stay there. Hands maybe onto your hips, and you're still again working on maybe shifting more and more weight until the toes float up off of the mat. Otherwise, hands underneath your left thigh. Again, lift your chest back up. Shoulder blades are squeezing together to keep the chest open. Now, once you have your balance here, slowly start to kick forwards through your left heel. As the left heel goes forwards, the hips don't want to go forwards with the heel. Keep the hips underneath you. The shoulders also don't want to go forwards. Keep the shoulders back. You're engaging your left quad to pull the leg further straight. Some of you will stop with still some bend of the knees. Some of you will make it to a straight leg. Take one more breath. Then go ahead, release. Bend your knee, even if it was straight. I've actually changed my mind slightly. So if you do have a strap, you're not going to need it this morning. We're not going to use it. I'm going to do something slightly different. Now, from here, with the knee bent, everybody take your right hand inside of, let's redo that. Everybody take your left hand inside of your left thigh and your right hand on top onto your hip. Then start to pull your left knee out to the side. Now, if you've still got those toes on the mat, just keep the toes on the mat, left hand inside of the thigh, encourage the knee out to the side. As the knee goes out, you don't want your left hip to go back. You don't want the hips to turn. Keep the hips facing forwards, just change the position of your leg. Take one more here. Bring the leg back to the center. Keep holding that balance if possible. Switch your hands. Take your right hand now to the outside of your left thigh. Left hand onto your hip. Twist. Hips facing forwards. Left knee pointing forwards. Your chest starts to turn back. So you really want to focus on this left shoulder that's behind you, pulling that left shoulder towards the back of your mat, pressing a little bit into your right hand to get a bit more rotation through the front of the body. One more. Then release. Come back to the center, release the left foot onto the mat. So that might have been a little bit harder than what we did in the last two level 1 to 2 classes. Using that twist. The twist is pretty challenging. When you're twisting on one leg, it changes your perception a little bit, your balance point. So it does make it a bit harder. So we're going to come into the other side. So shift your weight into your left leg and start to bring your right knee up towards you. Again, either keeping the toes on the mat or starting to float the toes or bringing the knee all the way up to level with your hips. Your belly is switched on here. Belly is active, helping to hold you up tall. The shoulders are back. From here, see if you can find that bind. Hands underneath your right thigh. Then bring the shoulders back if they came forwards. Really strong hold in the arms and the upper body. From here, start to straighten. Start to kick this right heel forwards. Again, if the toes are still on the mat, you're still balancing. You're still working on shifting more and more weight into your left foot. Make sure everything is still stacked. Shoulders haven't come forwards. Hips haven't come forwards. Take one more breath here. Then bend the knee if it went straight. Everybody, your right hand comes inside of your right thigh. Left hand onto your hip. Keep everything stacked. Keep everything tall. Start to pull the right knee out to the side. If your toes are on the mat, you can join in here. So you still have a little bit of engagement in that right glute that's behind you, helping to push this right hip forwards, getting more opening in the front of the leg. One more here. Bring the right knee back to the center. Take your left hand to the outside of your right thigh. Your right hand comes onto your hip. Begin your twist. Slowly start to roll your right shoulder back. Now, to keep this less challenging, keep your gaze forwards on something that isn't moving. To make it more challenging, if you have your balance, you can start to change your focal point for your gaze. Turning your head maybe to the right side of your room, to the right side of your mat. Eventually, maybe your gaze goes behind you over your right shoulder. Again, do make these adjustments really, really slowly. Just take one more breath wherever you are. Then come back to the center. Release the bind, set the right foot onto the mat. Congratulations, that part is done. So at the top of your mat, moving through Surya Namaskara Surya Namaskara A, just to wash all of that through. Grip through the toes, ground into your feet. Take a deep breath here. Inhale, arms reach up, look up. Exhale, fold, hinging at the hips, hands towards the mat. Inhale, flat back, lift your chest. Vinyasa. Exhale, plant the palms. Step or jump the feet to the back of your mat. First option, knees down. Second option, knees lifted. Chaturanga. Exhale. Cobra or up dog. Inhale. Downward facing dog. Exhale. coming all the way through into a seat. Look forwards, inhale, step or jump the feet between the hands, have a seat on the mat. You've made it. Bring the legs straight out in front of you, kicking forwards through your heels. Into an easy forwards fold here. Inhale, lift the chest, blocks if you need them, pop something underneath your hips. If you're finding it difficult to lengthen upwards, just elevate your hips a bit, that will help with a block, a pillow, or the rolled up mat behind you. Inhale, lift up through the chest, reach forwards. Exhale, fold, hinge at the hips, hands towards your legs somewhere. So either the shins, the ankles, or the feet. Just take 2 or 3 breaths, thinking more about your chest coming towards your toes rather than about your forehead getting down to the mat. You want to move forwards, not downwards. Last breath here. And then release. Inhale, come back up to the top. Bend the knees up into your chest, and you're going to come all the way down onto your back. Take the knees with you, roll back and down. And then you're coming right up into bridge pose, into your back bend for this morning. Release your knees, set the feet onto the mat. About hips width apart in your feet. Heels just out of reach of your fingertips. And the heels a little wider than your toes. Pressing down into the feet, same grounding in your feet as what you had right at the very start when we came to standing. Toes are gripping, the balls of your feet push down, as well as the outer edges of your heels. Keep that grounding, press down through your palms. Inhale, lift your hips. Hips going high. Glutes are switched on, pelvis is tucked up. From there, walk your shoulder blades together underneath you. Chest is a little bit further open now. You can stay here pushing through the hands. You can interlace the fingers underneath you if it feels good. Just 2 or 3 more breaths. Pushing through the legs to pull the chest back towards your chin. When you've had enough, release the bind if you took it. Separate the shoulder blades first, upper back into the mat. Then the middle back rolls down next. Then the lower back rolls down last. Once you're down, bring the right knee up into your chest. Wrap the arms around the right leg. Just a couple breaths, pulling the right knee in. Letting your lower back ground into the mat here. And then set the right foot back down again and draw the left knee in. And then release your left knee. Moving right into our twists. Your hips are going to shift over to the right side of your mat. So the hips move over a bit to one side. Knees come together. Knees pull up into your chest, and then take the knees across to the left side of your mat. So both knees go to the left. Your right hip is going to roll off of the mat a little bit, and then your gaze can drop out over your right shoulder. Just 3 breaths on this side. Letting that right hip pull further across the body as the right shoulder drops deeper down. And then coming back to the center. Drawing the knees back in, hips back to the middle of the mat. And then to the other side. Set the feet down. Shift the hips to the left side of the mat. Knees together, knees to the chest, and then knees to the right. Once the knees have dropped to the right, the gaze goes to the left. Just 2 or 3 more on this side. Coming back to the center. Draw the knees back up, hips to the middle, knees draw in. And preparing then for your Shavasana. So grab your props if you have any props that you need. Create whatever favorite shape of your body you'd like. If you've not got a favorite shape, then just release the legs. Let them go long to the mat. The arms can drop down by your sides with the palms facing upwards. Again, adjust that posture if you need to. Close your eyes. Shavasana. Release the fingers and the toes. Release the ankles and wrists. The knees and elbows. Let the hips sink down into the mat as the legs flop open away from one another. The shoulders melt down as your breath returns to normal. Your lips may slightly part as you release your jaw, letting the tongue come away from the roof of your mouth. Softening the space between the eyebrows. Softening the space behind the ears. Listening to any sounds that may be around you. Letting them wash over your body, creating stillness. Watching as your thoughts come in and out through your mind. Letting them finish. Letting them pass. Without creating any attachments to them. Finding the space that exists inside your mind. And finding some peace. Only beginning to deepen your breath. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circling the ankles and wrists. Rocking the head from side to side. Inhale to reach the arms overhead, reaching long through the fingers and through the toes. Exhale, draw the knees into the belly, wrap the arms around them, giving yourself one last big hug, rocking from side to side. Eventually winding up on the right hand side, using your right bicep as a pillow, remaining in Shavasana with your eyes closed. And when you're ready, press into your left palm, coming up to any comfortable seated position. Palms may press together at chest center if you choose. May you take only what is offered. Take only what you need, and always give more than you take. Stay safe, stay kind, stay patient. Thank you. Namaste.